Instruments. Ancient Instruments. Part 1. Welcome to the lecture series in Karnatic music. In this session, we shall discuss about ancient instruments belonging to Karnatic music. Under this category, we shall look upon two instruments. They are yar and muravu. Let us discuss about the yar in this session. The following headlines are covered in this session. Yar. Introduction. Reasons for the name of the yar. Origin of yar. Construction. Varieties of yar and reasons for the extinction of yar. Muravu. Introduction. Construction and mode of playing, sacred nature of muravu, and renowned players of muravu. Introduction. Yar is one of the most ancient of musical instruments. It was used as a primary instrument and also as an accompaniment to vocal music. When the fretted veena emerged, the yar slowly receded to the background. This instrument can even now be seen in Burma. It is known there as son. The son, in a way, reminds us of the fact that the ancient yar was inlaid with gems. During the time of Manikavachakar, the veena and the yar were both in vogue. This proved from the statement, Innisai Veenayar Yarinar Urupal in the Tirupalli Ezhuchi of Tiruvampavai. Appar also refers to the veena in his hymn Maasil Veenayum. In the Thanittiru Viruttam, Appar says in 7th stanza that when the world comes to an end and is overrun with the waters of the ocean, Shiva sits on the water surface and delights in playing on the veena. Emmirai naalvinai vasikkume. The importance of absolute music is emphasized here. Tirunilakanta Yarpanar provided the yar accompaniment to the sacred hymns which flowed as devotional outpouring from the mouth of Tirujnana Sambandar. Reasons for the name of yar. Since the tip of the dandi or the stem of this instrument was carved into the head of the weird animal yali, it is named as yari or yar. The headpiece of the yar at the tip of the dandi is retained even now as the headpiece in the veena. The yar instrument is spoken of in glorious terms in the Tamil epic Silappatikaram. Its origin. When the primitive hunter shot an arrow, he heard a delightful sound emanating from the string of the bow. He plucked the string independently a number of times and became enamored of its tone. This is the origin of the vil yar or bowstring. Later on, he tied strings of different lengths to the bow and found that a series of sounds of different pitch emanated. This paved the way for the development of the yar instrument. The terms Jyagosha and Dhanush Tankara signified the sound heard from the string of the bow. Construction. Yar is a stringed instrument belonging to the plucked group. It was played on open strings. It is a polyphonous instrument since more than one note can be played on it at the same time. The resonator was made of the wood tanakku. The resonator was called by the name pattar. The dandi or the stem was called Kod. This was made of ebony. This resonator was shaped like a boat. The boat was covered with a skin called the porvai tol. Right along the center of the skin, there was a small piece of wood running parallel to the edges. On this piece of wood, there were the holes through which the guts emanated. The strings of gut were tied at the top of the dandi. Some varieties of yar had tuning pegs, and some other yar varieties had rings of gut. The guts were tied to the rings of gut, and by moving them up and down, the pitch of the string was adjusted. The ring of gut was called tivavu or varkattu. The yar was played with the fingers of both the hands. It was tuned to a particular scale. Other scales were played on it by the shift of the tonic note or by returning the particular strings. Thus, the yar may be said to be the precursor of the later Eka Raga Mela Veena. Varieties of yar. Peri yar had 21 strings. Magara yar had 17 strings. Sakota yar had 16 strings. Senkotti yar had 7 strings. Siri yar, Maruttuva yar, and Adi yar are other varieties of yar mentioned in ancient Tamil literature. In Thirumayam temple near Pudukottai, Amaravati, Nagarjunakonda, Sanchi, Khajuraho, and other places, the sculpture of the yar can be seen. Reasons for the extinction of yar. Only straight note can be played on the yar. There were no facilities for playing the gamakas or graces on this instrument. Likewise, quarter tones could not be played on it. The famous episode relating to the Yar Murippan may be recalled in this connection. When Tirukஞான Sambandar sang the hymn Madar Madappidiyum in Megharaga Kurunji, corresponding to Neelambari Ragam, Tirunilakanta Yarpanar failed to produce its music correctly on the yar. Getting disgusted, he attempted to break the instrument. Sambandar immediately held his hand and remarked, "It is not your fault. It is only due to the limitations of the instrument that you failed to reproduce my music." Further, it took a long time to tune the instrument compared to the fretted veena. The fretted veena enabled any raga to be played with ease and without loss of time involved in tuning. In the yar, some of the strings had to be retuned to get a new scale. With the emergence of the concept of Adhara Shadja, the playing of new scales by the shift of the tonic note became an anachronism and a thing of the past. On account of these 5 reasons, the yar gradually sank into oblivion in India. The yar was tuned to the Shuddha Mela Sempalai or modern Harigamboji. Other scales were played by the shift of the tonic note. In this process, the frequency of 1 or 2 notes had to be slightly sharpened or flattened to get at the correct scale. The expert in yar play was one who steered correct of these defects and played correctly. Sempagai Arpu, Adirvu and Kudam are the 4 defects referred to in the Venir Kadai of Silipadikaram. Pagai is avoiding of playing the unwanted notes, that is, the Varjya Swaras. For instance, when the Pan Senturuti Madhyamavati Ragam was played, the notes Ga and Dha had to be avoided. Arp was a case when the pitch of the resultant note was a bit higher. It has to be slightly lowered to get the correct pitch and played. Kudam was a case where the pitch of the resulting note was slightly less than what it ought to be. In this case, the pitch was slightly raised and played. Adirve was tremulousness. This was continued vibration of the thicker guts of the lower octave. As soon as it was sounded, its vibration had to be damped with a small stick to enable the subsequent music to be clearly heard. There was a small stick held in the hands of the yard player for this purpose. This can be seen in the sculpture of the yard in Amaravati. It is this technique of damping that later on paved the way for the emergence of the damper in the piano. Now let us discuss about the Muravu. Muravu. Introduction. Muravu is a big copper drum played as an accompanying percussion instrument in the Kudiyattam, Nangiyar Kuthu and Kuthu performing arts of Kerala. Kudiyattam is a form of ancient Sanskrit theatre that is the traditional art performed inside the temples. It is in fact the only surviving form of Sanskrit theatre in India. The Muravu forms the focal point of the ancient music of devotion and epics that find their roots well grounded in the classical treatises like the Vedas and the Natya Shastra. It is played by the Ambalavasi Nambiyar community. It is the oldest percussion instrument and is an integral part of the performing temple arts of Kerala. It is believed that the Muravu originated 3000 years ago at Malakkunnu near Talaseri. This instrument is unique in producing a vibrant tone enriched with classical rhythm and purity. Construction and mode of playing. In olden days, Muravu was made out of clay, but these days it is mostly made of copper. Its narrow mouth is covered tightly with leather. It is usually placed inside a wooden frame called Muravana. The player strikes the hide with his bare hands to produce rhythmic notes. Though it is used as an accompaniment to the performing temple arts of Kerala, its deep and majestic sound makes it ideal for solo percussion symphony also. The drum is played only with hands, and even gripping it with the feet is considered blasphemous. This attitude arises out of the holy and sacred status of the Muravu, and it is often used with its special wooden stand, and a symbolic Muravu is permanently maintained in most temples of Kerala. The Sanskrit name of Nambiyar, Panivada, Pani means hands, and Vada comes from the verb Vadanam, meaning playing, altogether meaning the one who plays with hands, comes from this reason. Sacred nature of Muravu. Muravu is treated as a brahmacharya and it is considered as sacred. It is used to accompany the holy ritualistic temple performance of Kudiyattam and Kuthu. Only Ambalavasi Nambiyar community members, the Chakyar and the Nangiyars are allowed to play it inside temples or Kuthambalams still. It used to be a central part of all the solemn ceremonies like Annaprashanam or the first feeding of the baby, Namakaranam or naming ceremony, and other customary Hindu rites. Before a Muravu is used for the first time, it needs to undergo the sacred thread ceremony, which is typical for a Brahmin boy. This ceremony marks the rebirth of a Brahmin boy, and similarly, Muravu is qualified to be an instrument used in Kudiyattam only after this ceremony. There is a traditional decree that if the Muravu became dented or damaged after some period, then some solemn rites had to be observed. Repair and reusing the sacred instrument is not allowed. Renowned players of Muravu. One of the talented exponents of this instrument is Kalamandalam Ishwaran Unni, the head of the Muravu department at Kalamandalam, a center for performing arts and culture in Cheruturuthi, Trichur district, Kerala. Also, Guru P.K. Narayanan Nambiyar is often considered the contemporary master who has shaped many illustrious apprentices. Nowadays, Muravu is replaced by some other musical instrument, and hence we are not able to see the instrument in today's stage programs. So far, we had discussed about the two ancient but important instruments of South Indian music. Thus, we conclude this session. Thank you.